Jobber Nation, welcome to an exclusive episode of the JTP Lounge. As always, I'm Janelle from HR here with Sir Wilkins and Mrblacc, and we have a very dear friend of ours and a special guest joining us this evening. The man, the myth, the legend. He will introduce himself in a second, but before we do get to introductions, thank you to every single person that came out for AEW's All Out viewing party. Probably one of the biggest turnouts we've had in a long time. So we're so glad everyone. Oh, shout out to being put on Bleacher Report too. Don't think we forgot about that. So make sure to come out the Legends. Next time will be for Extreme Rules, September 26th at Legends. Other than that, let's just jump right on in. Can our lovely guest tell the viewers and listeners who he is? Because I think a lot of people don't know you. Like, they know the name.
Right.
They don't know you. So let everyone know who you are.
Yeah. So, as I would usually say on my own show, it's your boy Adazzle. Adazzle from the Black Wrestling Alliance. Most people would know Black Wrestling Alliance mainly from Instagram. Been running almost 5 years now. Almost 5 years. It's crazy. It's mad. Recently, kind of found my way back on Twitter, making up a lot of noise. Probably a little bit too much noise for some people. But yeah, man, this is me. Black Wrestling Alliance, of course, is the page. Dedicated to black wrestling in general. Every black wrestler that I can find in the world, I've either posted about them, said something about them, something like that, along the lines of, and everything that I do, my reviews, my opinions, is all centered on black wrestling and building the black wrestling community and fans. So that is me.
That hashtag Black Excellence is in the building, y'all. So before we get in, because trust me, the boys have been wanting to get you on for a long time. So we're definitely going to be asking some. Right. And then when I thought about it, I was like, wait, that hasn't happened?
It's never happened.
I thought we spoke before, but well, now we're here making history. So why not go into it? So first question.
Go for it.
Easiest question. What got you into wrestling? Like, what is your wrestling journey? Because for someone to be so predominantly in the black wrestling community, you got to start from somewhere. There's a journey. So
for sure. Earliest memory of wrestling is as an 8-year-old sitting down with my dad on a Saturday. Over here on a Saturday afternoon was WCW. So that was my early memories, man. Watching Sting, Johnny B. Bad was my guy at the time, and even like the Barbarian. The Barbarian used to scare me, man. Yeah, man. So WCW, watching with my dad, and not long after I discovered WWE, my cousin had the satellite dish. Like one of the only people in the area to have one of those, and so I'd go over there and watch WWE or WWF then, see Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior and all of that. Yeah, one of those ones. So yeah, man, that's what it was. So for a while, just got into it, loved it, whatever. Grew up, coming back to my teens, and people would start dropping off it because they found out it wasn't real. They got all upset in their feelings because the wrestling's not real. Yeah. And I was like, what? You didn't know before? Like, it was quite obvious to me that it wasn't real. It was a new thing to everyone else. But then maybe so the origin of the page itself, of my page itself, kind of came probably in my mid to late 20s. I started following, like, obviously now the background of how the business works and, the behind the scenes stuff and understanding all of that and being fascinated by all of that. And then seeing pages that were doing their own, news and stuff on Instagram and whatnot. And they've got this massive following, the Wrestling Classic was one, with however many 100K followers that he had at the time. And I was like, yo, I can do this. I've got an opinion as well. I can do this. But then I was like, I need to do something different. Because he had like other ones, like I think Curbside Hero, Wrestle Page. I'm like, yeah, I must be able to do this, but I need to do something different. So what I started doing was just looking for black wrestlers. And then I would just literally post about whoever I found at the time, just post about them. And it just grew into what it is now. The whole premise of me doing what I was doing was actually originally to try and build a community of black fans in the UK specifically, because being a fan of wrestling, for one, is unheard of. Two, being black in the UK made it worse. So then you're like, you're like one of 3 people in the whole UK that likes wrestling. So that was my whole thing at first. But then because I was posting what I was posting, obviously I'm finding all these stars that are in the US. That's where the following kind of started building. Obviously, you guys know already, a lot of people thought I was from New York because I was associated with you guys for one. And, everything that I was doing was all US based and whatnot. So it just built from there. And yeah, we're where we are now, almost 20,000 followers. I don't know how. 80% of my followers are from the US. The biggest following that I have in terms of cities is New York. I think it's 7% now, 7%, which is crazy. So yeah,
New York
this is where we're at. Trust me, and I still haven't been there, but
I'm trying to.
We've tried at least twice.
We rather would go to you.
Yeah.
Because like that actually is a goal of mine. I've always wanted to see wrestling in the UK.
Yeah.
And then Corona had a different plan because we were talking. Me and Danny were talking about going to the NXT was in Ireland.
Yes. Yeah.
It was like right after WrestleMania, and we were like,
yeah,
all right, I think we could do this. And then then the pandemic shut all that down. So but how is the wrestling scene in the UK? Like how has it grown? What's some of the wrestlers you may personally know in the UK that you can let us know about over here? Because I think it's good to know from both sides of the pond what's going on.
Obviously with the pandemic, wrestling was just non-existent over here the whole time. So as opposed to WWE was still running, of course, AEW was still doing everything, and maybe towards the end of last year some other promotions kind of started to trickle back in and stuff like that. Over here, it only literally started back in May. I think it was April or May this year. Something started happening, and that was only like Rev Pro, where you'd probably find, Will Ospreay was doing a thing. So yeah, the scene's been really, really quiet, really dead. Things are starting to build up again, as I said. But the guys to look out for, someone I'm a massive fan of is Michael Oku or OJMO. He's killing it right now. He is a double champion in Rev Pro. Just won a tag team championship and is their cruiserweight champion. He's beaten Pac, he's beaten Will Ospreay, he's beaten the guy, what's his name? The guy who's in the Bullet Club, something Eagles, I can't remember now. And he's beaten El Phantasmo, all these kind of different people. So the OJ also wants to look out for. Roy Johnson is another guy who is making waves. And I don't say that as a pun because his name Big Wavy, Roy Johnson. So he's making waves. But yeah, man, there's a whole lot of people to look out for, and some of the ladies are killing it as well. Mercedes Blaze is one. That some people may know. Mercedes Blaze is absolutely killing it. Yeah, man. Here's a way you can look at a lot of UK wrestling actually. So Progress Wrestling is on the WWE network and has been for a good few months now.
We don't have the network over here.
Okay.
It would be Peacock.
Peacock, isn't it? Yeah, we still have the network. So I don't know.
Is it on Peacock?
So it is on Peacock.
I'm not sure.
I think it is because I've seen some like clips of like old Pete Dunne and on Peacock, but over where he is, they still have the network.
Yeah, we still have the network. Right. So they would do new shows every week as well, so it's all fresh. So Mercedes Blaze is one. Roy Johnson actually is the host. I don't know if he still does that, but he was the host when it first came onto the network or Peacock. So yeah, there's a lot of faces to get to know. I remember when I first started the page, I knew about 3. Now I know at least 30, and it's like, and that doesn't sound like a lot at all. That's probably like how many WWE got on their whole roster. But it's a massive step to what it used to be. So yeah, the UK have to keep your eyes on it, but you know, the UK needs to do a lot more when it comes to representation as well in wrestling. Believe me, that whole thing hasn't even started over here. Like we've talked about AEW recently. We've talked about WWE over the last few years, but in the UK, the representation is a joke, if not just non-existent almost, to be honest.
Why do you think that?
Wow. So
again,
I've been to shows. I've been to shows over here, and one, I'd be sometimes literally the only black person in the building. If I'm not, if not a wrestler, the wrestlers would probably be the over three people. If that. I mean, the one show that I went to, and it was the most amount of black people I've seen in a place was 5 people. The fact that I can count that and remember that tells you everything. There was also a show about 2 years ago that Roy Johnson put together. It was 2 years ago in October being the UK Black History Month. And it was literally just black wrestlers on the card from start to finish. Absolutely amazing show. It was also obviously there to show that we can, be on these main stages and all the rest of it. Every single person that was on the card could be on any card in the UK without doubt and show out. It was a show with, I think it was around 150 people or fans attended. And I think it was less than 10 people, non-wrestlers, that were black. And some of those were family of the wrestlers. And that was a show for black people and for black fans, but it was still a bunch of, still another 125 plus white folk at 150 capacity show.
Wow.
So that tells you a lot. It tells you everything.
So then I asked this question then. Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a lot of black UK wrestling fans?
Good question.
Here's the thing. So that's a very good question. It's a twofold type of situation, almost a bit like a chicken and egg type of situation, because it's like, well, are there a lot of fans, or is it that representation's that bad that people are just not inspired to be fans? I think it's a bit of both. So we're the minority in this world of wrestling in general. Whether it's a representation thing or not, we're the minority in terms of numbers. But at the same time, I believe that if wrestling was something that was the norm, so over here, our biggest thing is football. You like call it soccer for some reason, but our biggest thing is football. And very similar to basketball. Or American football, as we call it, or baseball, there is a lot of black stars who are the best, and it's not even a question. Like you'll always have the argument of racism, for example, but it's not a question as to whether there's enough representation or black people or whatever else. Football, you have a team of 11 footballers. You're probably having about 8 of them are black on each team. It's not a thing. So now when kids are growing up, they want to be footballers. They want to be, you know what I mean? It's whereas over here now with wrestling, it's not even a second thought. As soon as you hit the age of 12, wrestling's not even a thing for you anymore because you find out it's not real. It's not a thing anymore. You don't aspire to be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So if the representation was different, you know, I guess you wanting to aspire to be that or wanting to hold on to that, you know, your love for it or your passion would be very different. So I think it's twofold in a sense where we need to be represented more, but at the same time, you know, the representation would grow the numbers. I feel it's just not a thing.
No, you're right. I also think that it's not, wrestling is not part of Black culture.
Right.
It's not it's a worldwide thing if you think about it. Like there's Blacks in Haiti, Blacks in Cuba, Blacks in you know, America. It's not Black culture. Where you have something like in Mexico, it's culture.
Right.
It's culture. Puerto Rico, that is part of their culture down there. It's their legends in the country. Japan, culture. So I think a lot of things is us as fans is it kind of worked out for American Black fans is a little bit more because we've been ingrained in it for so long. It's still not heavy part of Black culture, but it's a part of it in a little bit of way, like especially Southerns who came up to the North, the Great Migration, and they, you know, they start watching it. But I think it starts as a young kid. Like you take your kids to go watch a wrestling show, they fall in love with it. They take their kids, and it slowly ingrains in it. But I just when you just look at it, it's not a heavy thing in our culture in general. But if you see more and more people that look like you, you'll be more interested.
Right. Exactly that. And I think that for me is the whole premise of one, the page, two, my whole ethos on what I'm here, I guess, to do is to kind of encourage us as fans to be a lot more one, vocal, proud about who we are, not be so, you know, kind of caged in terms of being a Black fan of wrestling. You don't tell nobody that you like wrestling. Why? Like, why not? When you think about it logically, like it's not different to liking anything else. So, you know, it's just one of those things.
So how would you define representation in wrestling for as a Black man? Like, how would you define that? Like, what does that look for you? Like, if there was a perfect world in the wrestling for representation for our culture, how would that look?
Like the NBA. I mean, here's my thing. At the end of the day, because wrestling is predetermined and it's generally run by white males, it's them that's going to be telling their story. If we were very honest about Black people in general, look at any sport, any popular sport that there is, we are at the top end of the best, you know, the record breakers, the current stars, this, that, and the next. We are the top. Basketball, football, American football, baseball, anything you can think of. Even now, golf and Formula One, which is like rich white man sports. You know what I mean? Tiger Woods, Lewis Hamilton, like we're there. So if this wrestling game was like, you know, real, not predetermined, or if we were very honest about people's abilities and whatever else, we would be the top end of, you know, of the conversation, with top end of all the stars and all the rest of it. Guys like Jonathan Gresham, for example, he's like the perfect example of literally, if not the best wrestler when it comes to technical ability or all the rest of it. The Rock is easily one of the greatest to ever do it. Easily the greatest to ever do it. Listen, Wilkins, I'm there with you. Completely there with you.
No.
Completely there with you.
He's another love. First of all, I thought that was Austin because he ain't had no.
That's not the right guy.
Yo,
But
I looked at him. I looked at him like, put that away. That's the wrong.
Right. I was like, all right, man.
Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, Rock, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. We've seen the reactions that we had when Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship. We've seen what Bobby Lashley's been doing recently. Big E's now the new champion. The New Day have done what the New Day have done in recent years. It's like we literally should be on top. But because we don't control the narrative, because there is a control of the narrative is controlled by who it is that runs things, and that's the white male, and it's as simple as that. To be fair,
you know who said something very similar to that?
Mm-hmm.
The man who's gonna get rid of racism in America with his biracial child. My man, Cody Rhodes,
the liberator of the free people.
All jokes aside, he said it in an interview. He was like, "You see black faces at the top in the NBA and in other sports. Why aren't they at the top when it comes to professional wrestling?" See, my man Cody knows.
But the thing about it is, what I realized is, in other sports, we actually embraced it. You know, look at basketball. We embrace basketball. Look at football. We embraced it. Every sport that we embrace, just like Adrian said, we're going to dominate in it. Probably in wrestling, we've probably been dominating for a while, but the power that's be, there's not enough that look like us. You understand?
Right.
To have like a somewhat major promotion being owned by a black man, which it seems to be the only one is House of Glory, Master P. What else? You understand? And I said this weeks ago, is there is no black royal family. You understand? Where in basketball, there is so many popular people in NBA who was dominating were black. So it's easier for them to say, I'm gonna bring my people. Look at Rich Paul. A lot of people don't like him, but because of LeBron, look how many people have black agents because of LeBron that they can actually trust. And because of that, you got the Rock Nation. So who are the royal black families in wrestling? There is none. That's why.
I think it's starting to come up.
But who is the royal black family right now, big dog?
We don't have it. Low key, it's the Rock and the Samoans, but they ain't black.
Exactly. That's the only thing. That's closest thing we're getting.
The closest we're getting.
Closest thing we're getting right now.
Because real talk, Nia Jax got away with a lot of shit. I love Nia. I absolutely love Nia. But she gets away with that.
Way too much.
That shit. Because we also got to remember when she literally walked out the company and came back. That's the rumor. I don't know how true that is.
And she's kind of low card too, yeah.
But one of the things is to answer the question and also talk to Adrian and the rest of us. I think it's starting to happen now because I've always spoke about how the access to learn wrestling wasn't always there. If you talk to a lot of like black wrestlers, a lot of them said they fell into the business. We interviewed Jazz. How did she say she fell into the business? Legend fell into the business. Booker T, he be acting kind of funny sometimes online when it comes to black people.
Yeah, I prefer his brother over him. So,
but
everyone does, I believe. So.
But he fell into the business. Ron Killings.
Yeah. Everyone, a lot of them, especially a lot of black stars have fell into it through football.
Yeah, but the thing about it, they're now being recruited now because they see the physicality that they can endure. They see how great they are, and all this other stuff. And then there's more access to schools now. Majority.
Remember when we interviewed always rest in peace JTG when he said he had to take the bus back and forth
to Virginia, right? Was it Virginia?
Yeah. I feel like it was further than that.
South.
It was like maybe like a 10-hour bus ride he would take from New York to go train and go back and forth.
I believe Ember Moon did a very similar thing in Texas as well.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like a 5-hour there and back trip.
Yeah, it's that type of like imagine like you have to support your family because you're a young kid, and you about to go travel to 5 hours and go wrestle.
Mad.
Just for $50.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And wrestling school ain't cheap, low key. It ain't cheap. So, but now we have more access to it. Like once again, I'll bring up Booker T. He has a whole school now.
Mm-hmm.
The Dudleys have a school. The 3D school they have.
Yep. Yeah.
They have a school, and like my brother's saying, we're building that legacy, but it's a slow thing because low key the Samoans ran wrestling for like years.
Yeah,
they built their home. They built their home.
And low key, the Rock show that was on NBC, you saw that. Like the build, like people don't talk about it low key, but that show showcased how his grandmother was out here running the company. They were going. It was booking people and learning the business and stuff like that.
But it's what we're saying though. So my brother kind of saying is like the Samoans are probably not fully accepted, and they're like, we'll do it ourselves. We'll build our own thing, and a lot of people are building these schools, are building these things, but it's still in the beginning process of it.
But the one thing I have to realize is like, for example, for us in the U.S., right? I don't know how it is over there. Hockey, it's really expensive, right? And like, thanks for the terminology, that's one of those rich man sports because equipment is expensive. And now, Madison Square Garden, a lot of these big arenas who have hockey are now having youth hockey, where they are covering the certain costs. The thing about it, when it comes to wrestling, like my brother pointed out, it's expensive. And just because the access is so limited, there is not enough schools that maybe 4 schools may charge every month $1,000. Nobody in the hood got $1,000. Compared to the same exact $1,000 that I have for a month, I could take that, I could buy basketball, and I could go to the park. That's the most expensive stuff, and the sneakers. The rest of the $500, $1,000, I could do for like clothes, for baby formula. You don't know, there's so much stuff you could use. But let me ask you a question. How is it training for Black people over there? Is it the same struggle as it over here, or is it a lot easier?
It's near non-existent because as well, wrestling is very much a Mexican, a Japanese, and an American thing. Over here, it's even for the white male. Over here, wrestling's not a thing. Wrestling isn't even in the top 5, 10 of sports or whatever else that anyone would do. It's not even in a conversation half the time. I'm sure most of the guys, white or black, would probably say the same thing. So, even with Pete Dunne. So Pete Dunne is from Birmingham, where I'm from as well.
Nice.
And I remember there was a documentary years and years ago. Pete Dunne was probably like 16, 17, just getting into the business. And no one knew who he was. But he only got into wrestling because his dad used to be a bodybuilder. His older brother was a bodybuilder, so he wanted to be a bodybuilder as well. So he started doing that. And then one of his friends who was a bodybuilder was into wrestling as well. And that's kind of how he got into it. So again, it's not a thing where you aspire to be a wrestler at a young age. It's something that you kind of just fall into, get into it. You find that you're decent at it, and carry on doing it, and then you fall in love with it, and it builds into whatever it is. It's probably only recently now, because it's so accessible, because we have the internet, because we have social media, that you see things here, there, and everywhere, and you can, access is just there. So
Pete
younger
Dunne
people are now,
No.
you know. Oh, Pete Dunne what?
That's what I was trying to wait till you finish and tell him no.
Oh, man.
Ciampa
Okay.
is the new NXT champion.
Okay. I can deal with that. I wanted it to be Pete Dunne. It would have made more sense, but all right. But yeah, so people just kind of just fall into it as well. So over here, wrestling school, there are very few, far between, and even if they do exist, you know, it's kind of one of those things where a friend of a friend will tell you about it, or you know, you kind of just hear. Yeah, exactly that. So it's crazy. Like I didn't even know wrestling schools existed over here until about 5 years ago. I'm like, what? There's actually wrestling schools here. I wouldn't even fathom like how people actually got into wrestling in the UK. I thought the British Bulldog was the British Bulldog because he went to America. You know what I mean? Like, not because, you know, not, and like the Dynamite Kid and whatever else, not because they became great wrestlers in the UK, but simply because they moved over there. So yeah, now it's very different, of course, but it's still, as Wilkins said, it's very much a secret society type of thing, where unless your friends told you about it, you don't really know. You don't necessarily look for it.
Yeah, you don't. When it comes to being featured on your page, because
yes,
I get people hit. There's one dude that goes to my school. I think he's the next up. I'm telling you that right now. I'll DM you him. Like no bullshit. When our teacher Red was just like, he's next. Like, homie's the complete package.
Nice. You talking about the black kid with the braids?
Encore, yeah, he's a complete package. Like
that remind me of Reggie.
Yeah, he's the complete package.
He do.
That he's the complete package. But he came up to me once. He was like, "Yo, I know I hit it when I'm on the Black Wrestling Alliance page."
Everybody says that.
When we were in pre-production, what did I tell you? I said people out here don't feel validated unless they on Black Wrestling Alliance. So and then they get to be posted and stuff.
Exactly. But the thing is though, I'll get to the actual question about it. It's the importance of being recognized. Yeah. Because they're not recognized enough for their talent. A lot of times they're overlooked. So what do you look for when you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do a spotlight on this guy or this woman. What particular things do you look for? So the streets can know.
He giving them the cheat code. He giving them the cheat code.
Talk to them.
You know what? You know what's been disappointing in the last year or so. I've not necessarily been able to do that type of thing. So like post on a focus wrestler, like the spotlight type of post. I'm trying my best to bring it back, but it takes so long and I don't have the time like I used to. But what it used to be for me would literally be that type of like an it factor. So it's not like, you know, you got to be this, you got to be that, blah, blah, blah. It was just stand out. So as I said, when I first started doing this page, it was just about me looking for black wrestlers. I didn't think there was as many as there are. I'm finding these people, and I'm just like, why are there so many of you? Like, you're giving me work to do. What are you doing? But like one of the first people that I found was Kaden Carter. What did she used to be called back in the day again? I can't even remember now.
I don't remember.
I completely forget. But she was one of the first people that I found, and it was literally because one, she was just different. Like there were other female wrestlers out there that I spotted, but she was just doing stuff that no other females were really doing. Lacey Lane, thank you for that. So she was doing stuff with Leo Rush. I saw matches with her and Leo Rush, and like she was keeping up with Leo Rush, not just in the speed, but in what they were doing as well. And I was just like, wow, this is completely different to what I've seen any other female do. So she was one. Another one was Desmond Xavier, Swerve, Shane Strickland back then.
Shane Strickland.
Christian Casanova, Carmelo Hayes now. Chris Bay was another one. And I'm just like, yo, like these people are doing stuff. Like as a wrestling fan, I know a lot of wrestling fans look for people that do things different. So the reason why we loved Shawn Michaels back in the day was because he was very different to your Ultimate Warrior, to Hulk Hogan. He was built different. He was just this nice slim guy, a little bit more relatable because, well, there was that as well. Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, all these people, even back then, Chris Jericho. And obviously The Rock came out and did what he did as well. So I was always looking for people that were just different, just completely different, but yet had something, weren't different just to be different, but they also had something. So I mentioned all those names that I mentioned. Now look at those people now. Caden Carter's in WWE. Swerve is doing what Swerve's doing. Wesley, Desmond Xavier is now, NXT Tag Team Champion. Chris Bay is one of the most talked about people this year. Carmelo Hayes, breakout star. I almost feel like I should be a scout for WWE because I found all these people and, they're now doing things now. I mean, I've had people that have come back to me and said, oh, here's a crazy one, actually. There are at least two people that I know for a fact who were signed or got an opportunity because they were spotted on my page.
Talk to them.
Talk about it.
So one of the people who, I mean, it wasn't necessarily an opportunity necessarily came from this, but I remember ages ago, Faye Jackson messaged me and she was like, oh, I was at a WWE show. She was like in the back or whatever else. They were in a city and she probably ended up being, I don't know, in like, say, the conga line or something for then, No Way Jose or probably Adam Rose's one back in the day. But she's like, I was at a show and I was in the back and I saw Teddy Long. Teddy Long's come up to me and said, oh, you're Faye Jackson, aren't you? She was like, how do you know? I saw you on the BWA page. What? Teddy Long noticed her from my page. The fact that Teddy Long was even looking at my page at the time, I'm like, what? The other big massive one. So when AEW started out, and they first announced that they were going to be a fully fledged company and whatnot, and they were naming who would be on the board and stuff. And Brandi Rhodes was saying she's going to be chief brand officer. Brandi Rhodes had already been following the page for a little bit. So I got brave and I messaged her and I was like, oh, is there any way I could get an interview with you and blah, blah. Managed to get one. I was the first person to speak to her since she announced her position. And one of the things that she told me was the reason why Sonny Kiss was signed to the company was because Brandi Rhodes spotted him on my page.
Well, there you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know what I mean? Like
literally,
it happens.
The definition of putting me on.
Well, the thing is,
crazy.
Low key. So you ever heard of The Source? The Source magazine?
Yeah.
So back in the day, they had something called Unsigned Hype.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We Love Wrestling does a little bit of that too.
Mm-hmm.
But you are like the unsigned hype for Black wrestlers. You are literally, that's what you are, the unsigned hype for Black wrestlers. You have your other, news source about people that are signed, everything that's going on. But when it comes to like people who are not in it right now, not signed, you are like that go-to page for Black wrestlers. Like We Love Wrestling does everybody, but right. You do like particularly Black wrestlers and you talk about them who aren't signed. People there's guys I've never heard of. And I was like, oh, we'll check them out. And the biggest thing that I will say is that separates you from, and this is one thing I've always loved about you, about the page, is that the presentation has been superb. The presentation has been superb. So when you spotlight somebody, it's put in a way where it's like, oh, this is something serious. And it's been one of your biggest strengths throughout the years is the presentation that you put up. But yeah, you really killed it. But anybody on your radar right now?
Wait. I got a question. Go. Like, before you answer that, all right, you have put me on to people I never thought that they were black. Like, I'm sorry. There's a couple of the top of my head. Ricochet, I didn't know that he was black. I thought Ricochet was
Rico Booty, you didn't know?
Listen, I didn't know.
Listen, man. I can name a good number of people, a good number of wrestlers that almost every time I post about them, I get, oh, so and so are they black? Or they will tell me that person's not black. Ricky Starks is the latest one. Every time I post about Ricky Starks, it doesn't matter how many times I do it, I get at least one person either ask, oh, Ricky Starks is black, or tell me Ricky Starks isn't black. And this is after Ricky Starks has come out and said he is black, or he you know what I mean? Well, it's crazy. Like Mia Yim is another one that was on Twitter the other day.
I saw that one.
That's a madness. Ricochet is another one for a very, very long time. Sasha Banks, people are still every now and again question that one.
What?
Yeah, Sasha Banks still gets questioned.
Weird.
That's weird. Mad. That's mad. I don't get that.
You know what the problem is? And this is what it is. And this goes into wrestling as well. We put black people in a box.
Right.
We're supposed to look a certain type of way, dress a certain type of way, and act a certain type of way. And people who are black fall for that mentality of how they're supposed to look, even though we be mixing and diving and all over. Like, you're like just the 4 people that are here. You have 2 Asians, an Englishman, and a Cuban woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we come in so many different shades. Like we're the most diverse race ever. If that makes any sense.
That is Spanish people.
Yeah.
So what happened, Janelle, on NXT as we watch this?
So right now, because I'm surprised they let the wedding be the last thing. So they got the wedding of Amy and Dexter Loomis.
Yeah.
And the officiant was like, "Is there anyone that objects?" And they all put their hands up. And Dexter Loomis has an axe in his coat pocket, and he just showed the axe like, "If y'all don't shut the fuck up." So it's hilarious what's going on. But actually, I have a question. What is your opinion on lists? You know, we've been talking behind the scenes. There have been some lists that have been released. You do your own list. Like, what are your thoughts and opinions and how you think doing a list formulates that like image? Like, does it help? Does it hurt? You know, there's so many, I think, good things, but then I also think it's always that ranking that whoever you thought was at 86 doesn't deserve that or whatever the case may be. So what is your opinion on lists?
Lists in general, listen, I don't care how many lists there are. There can be 20 million lists. It's not a problem. Making a list is not an issue. For me, if I ever had any issue with any list, it's about it being clear and concise. So if you have a list, you need to let people know exactly what the list is, and especially if it's a ranking, what that criteria is, and then it has to then follow and make sense. So obviously we know about the PWI 500, and every year since I've been kind of following and making my points on it and posting about it and who the top black stars are on the list and blah blah blah, you always get the comeback of so and so shouldn't be there and this person should be here and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, let's go back to the criteria. let's look at what, say, Jonathan Gresham, for example. Some people are, probably arguing he should have been higher, blah, 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 and Rich Swann probably shouldn't have been at number 10. I just earlier today, the editor-in-chief, and he was on my show, and so I asked him the same question, like, people are saying Rich Swann and Jonathan Gresham probably should have swapped places, blah, blah, blah. But then when you look at the criteria is firstly wins and losses, championship wins, and it depends on what that championship is and blah, blah, blah. Then it's you looking at the level of the competition that they faced. So for Rich Swann and Jonathan Gresham, as great as Gresham is in the ring, first and foremost, the championship that he won is the pure championship, not the ROH championship. That probably would have made the absolute difference. Whereas also as well, with Rich Swann winning the Impact, he also faced former Impact champions and beat, Sami Callihan, for example. Moose was a strong contender, even though he's not a former champion, strong contender for the championship. And then on top of that, he was the man that was put in, who Impact said, right, this is going to be the guy who we're going to put at the forefront for this massive champion versus champion thing that we're doing with AEW. They chose Rich Swann. That's massive. That's way bigger than, and it's way bigger than what Jonathan Gresham did. As much as that whole pure championship and the tournament was about him, was focused on him, he won it, all the rest of it, it doesn't compare to then an inter-brand champion versus champion scenario. So lists are absolutely fine as long as the criteria makes sense. Wilkins mentioned as well about my thing about presentation. For me, I come from a marketing and branding background. That's what I do. That's what my day-to-day job is. So for me, that is the most important thing, the way people take things in. So your list, your presentation, all of that has to be on point. Otherwise, people are not gonna take it in, or it's gonna be quickly forgotten about. It's not gonna resonate with people. They're not, you know what I mean, and all that kind of thing. So clarity isn't just how it looks, but how it's presented, the purpose of it as well. So let's be very frank about the reason why you asked this question. So we had the BW5, the BW500.
He just came on here throwing shade. Now he throwing haymakers.
It's not a shade thing in the slightest.
That's the reason why that you asked this question.
Let's go. So we had the BW500
because of PWI.
It's about
the BW500, right? So as great as the list is to showcase black wrestlers, listen, there was absolutely nothing wrong with that. The effort it takes to make that is phenomenal. Cannot be taken away in the slightest. It's very, very difficult. I do my own list, and that has 10 people every month. Just that alone is a headache.
That shit is hard.
It's difficult. So to do 500, to even know 500 black wrestlers is phenomenal. But my thing with it was simply the presentation and the purpose of it. So whether if it was a ranking, make it clear it's a ranking and also what the criteria is. If it was just a directory or a list of names, make it clear and obvious that that's what it was. And also, with that said, if it was a list of names and you just want people to start following and supporting these people, for me, the way to do that would have been possibly put it on a website and then have links to those people's social medias or something like that. If you know those many people, you have at least one link to one social media account that they have. In this day and age, it's you don't know a name and don't have some kind of access to them. You know what I mean? So lists, let's keep doing them. Need to keep happening. Again, it's awareness. It's putting names out there in the same way my page works. It's about putting names out there for people to start following, supporting. If you see something in them that you like, and I've had more than enough times I've posted about a wrestler and they maybe only got like 5 followers from that post or on that same day, and they'll message me like, "Oh, it's amazing. You know, I've got so many followers, blah, blah, blah." That alone is more than enough. So keep doing what we're doing, but I think we have to be a lot more clearer in what we are trying to do. Because here's the other thing as well. We're black people. We know already we have to work 10 times harder than the white man to be seen as equal.
Facts.
True. That's true. That's bars.
Anything that we put out has to be on top. For people to say, "Yo, that's something," you know, that's something for me to look out for, or, "Oh, these people are doing so and so." And so let's keep doing what we're doing, but the level has to be on top. And you know what? And to be frank as well, when you look at other lists that are done, you know, PWI, for example, and any other list, even with the PWI, they'll focus on the top 10. Each person in the top 10's got their own page. That's amazing. But then even the rest, the other 490, all have at least some little
a bio
about them, and why they're in the list, or why they're, you know what I mean. It's simple. If you know who they are, tell me what you know, and that's all we need to do. That's all it is.
No, I agree. I agree. The list has its own thing. What are your thoughts on the current landscape of black wrestling in America right now? Because I know that's the majority of what you see. What is your current thoughts on it? As you know, we just had a back-to-back black champions for WWE.
Amazing.
Okay.
NXT is getting extra NBA-ish here and there.
I have never seen so many black niggas on NXT tonight in my life. Every segment was a dark or light skinned brother, and I was like, where did they come from?
Yep.
And you know, AEW is having their representation issues, but just recently, you know, Ricky's coming up, Hobbs is coming up. I don't know if it's a work between Brian Cage and Ricky. You know more than I do, so I don't know if that was a work that's going on online right now. But what are your thoughts right now? You know, people complain about AEW, people complain about WWE. So what are your thoughts on the landscape?
The landscape in general is still very obvious to us as to who runs the show. WWE, you know, are doing great. In general, they're doing great. But then you'll have the Kofi Kingston scenario when he lost in 9 seconds. You get the repeat when we had Bianca Belair losing in 25 seconds. And it's those things that kind of tarnish or remind us as to who runs the show. And that's not me saying that it's an all-out racist type of scenario, but it's definitely a thing where our thoughts and our feelings and the way we're going to react isn't necessarily a second thought. You know, you go from Kofi Kingston being the first African champion to having about a 6-month run, decent, beating the likes of Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, all former champions, all the rest of it, very convincingly. And then he loses to Brock Lesnar in 9 seconds. And that was only really for Cain Velasquez to come out and face up to Brock Lesnar, and then he disappeared in like 2 days. Like,
because Cain Velasquez can't wrestle his bum ass.
Right.
I forgot about him.
Absolute rubbish. And then obviously with Bianca Belair, obviously losing out simply because Becky Lynch came back. So, you know, we get those moments. But at the same time, with WWE in general, obviously, as you said, we've had Bobby Lashley to Big E. Bobby Lashley's run was absolutely amazing. I echo the thoughts that Wilkins shared, I think, last week about people not giving enough flowers to Lashley and not speaking up enough about what Lashley's been doing the last 6 months. He's just been untouchable in everything that he's been doing. You see the likes of Reggie, as much as R-Truth is doing the comedy stuff, is very much, you know, the stamp of what the 24/7 championship is, and I think it was made for him. You know, and there's so many others that's happening. Obviously, you know, the stuff that we've seen in NXT, we've seen the Hurt Business, we've seen Hit Row on NXT, Wesley and MSK doing great on NXT as well. So it's nice. On the other side of Florida, you've got AEW, and I'm like, what's going on? and for me, the biggest problem for me when it comes to AEW isn't simply the lack of representation. The problem that they put themselves in was saying we are going to be a diverse company. If they never said that, no one would be saying anything right now, because if ROH, for example, ROH are doing great things, then you know there doesn't seem to be a representation problem in ROH. But if there was, or if there was not many people in ROH that were black, no one would be asking any questions. No one questions PWG. No one questions, you know, some of these other indie promotions that have, you know, bought us the likes of, you know, a CM Punk or the Kenny Omegas or the Young Bucks and all those kind of people. No one's questioned that, because they never said that that's what they're going to be there for. Whereas AEW came out strong. We are about representation. We're signing an openly homosexual man. We're signing a transgender person, and we're signing all these Mexicans and blah 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 and da 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 da. But yet, 2 years later, who's the top of the card? John Moxley, Chris Jericho, NJF, Darby Allin, CM Punk,
white,
Adam Page.
But
you know what I mean?
Hold up, to defend them, just like I said previously before, yo, it's only been 2 years and they're doing it right in the middle of the pandemic. Now, this is why that I get what everyone is saying. I 1,000% get it. I will never deny it, and I'll agree with y'all. But listen, WWE was doing this for way longer, and we didn't say nothing until recently. AEW, I'll give them a pass. They have, you know, a pandemic, stuff like this, easier to reconcile. But I'm giving them a pass because some of the great up-and-comers are black. So
now here's my counter argument to that, though. Here's my counter argument to that. I had a very good talk with Alfred Conua. You guys had him on your show a few weeks back as well.
I love Alfred.
He's amazing. One of the things he said, which I didn't even think about, you know, and I was like, whoa. One of the things he said is, we talk about WWE taking 60 years to put a championship on a black man. But then 60 years ago, or for that 60 years, or for at least 50 years, were there guys like us? Were there guys like us? Were there other black wrestling journalists and fans who were making noise? Not at all. I think a massive reason why certain things are happening is simply because we are making noise. We are now making noise. We now have a voice that is being heard and can be accessed and all the rest of it. Can't be ignored. That's what the difference is. So for me, the 2 year thing for AEW, I'm sorry, it's not an excuse, because here's the other thing as well. When you guys were signing people, where was at the time, Swerve was a free agent. Chris Bay was a free agent. Christian Casanova was a free agent. Ken Broadway was a free agent. You know, all these people were free agents at the time.
Savannah Evans, Big Time Yaya, list goes on.
Why were they not signed? Why were they not signed?
Yeah, wow.
There you go. There you go. There's so many. There's so many. Why weren't they signed as, you know, mid to upper card talent? Scorpio Sky was probably the only person that was signed that was black that had some level of recognition, and that was because he was part of a trio with two other white guys.
So
ROH.
This is my thing.
Folks are so
hold on. I'm just so glad You said the exact same thing I've been saying for months.
Nah,
I
Janelle.
said the
The way you say
exact
it,
same
Janelle,
thing.
the way you say it, Janelle,
I
you
said it
sound
the
mad
exact
biased.
same way.
No, you do
No,
not. No,
I
you do
said
not,
the
Janelle.
exact same
No,
way.
you do
I
not,
said
Janelle.
they got up there, had a whole press conference and said our mission is to have diversity. Where?
But here's the thing, and it's not just the black thing either, because up until the Lucha Brothers beat the Young Bucks as well, like their other thing was about tag teams. They had the lineup of the best tag teams in the business, bar the Usos, the Street Profits, and the New Day. They had everyone else, or they still do have everyone else. What happened to Proud and Powerful? Why did it take the Lucha Brothers so long? Why did the Young Bucks and why was Kenny Omega and Adam Page tag team champions when you had 5 other tag teams that should have been the face of your tag team division? Why are you getting 2 single stars holding on to a tag team championship? It made no sense. So it's not just
put on some fire matches though.
Oh, and it's not. There's no doubt that they would show out. There's no doubt they would show out.
Right.
But if you're gonna have Proud and Powerful, the Lucha Brothers, you know, even before FTR came, you had Jurassic Express and a few others. What was that about? Why did they do that? It made no sense. It just made no sense. And there's so much that they do. Again, the women's division as well is another one. Like, why is it taking so long? Even now, I'm glad Britt Baker is where Britt Baker is. She's great, and I think she's definitely helping to, you know, I guess extinguish the mess up the mess up that was there, having Hikaru Shida as champion for so long. It was way too long. And I can see certain things change, but at the same time, I'm still kind of like, right, how are they going to do this? What are they going to do with this? And then the other argument to the whole, you know, diversity and what I call for AEW the Minority Report is, you know, we had the likes of MJF, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and whenever we talk about this whole thing of a lack of representation, the first thing is, which black stars ready? Which black stars ready? Which black wrestlers ready? Was MJF ready when he signed? Was Darby Allin really ready when he signed? Is Jungle Boy ready? Orange Cassidy, you can argue, but he was very different. But there's no reason why you couldn't look at a Scorpio Sky and think, right, we want to push him. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Because that's what happened with MJF.
Yeah,
that's what happened with MJF. They looked at him for,
no, that's not what it is, though.
Go for it.
This is what it is. Their demographic is white.
Yeah.
And that's what they're feeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to. And it's, and you know what? That's what it is. Would their product grow if they added more representation in it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to what you said in the beginning of the show. When you went to your show in the UK, it's five of us and like 125 of them.
Right.
And out of the 5, it's families of the wrestlers. That's one. Number 2, you mentioned it earlier in the show as well, where it's still a hold by white men that's controlling it. And majority of those men are wrestlers as well. That's number 2. By the way, has Brandi blocked you yet?
Blocked me?
Yes, you.
Nah, not at all. Listen, man. Brandi. You see, after that whole thing, actually, she put out that tweet and deleted it not long after. That kind of got me back on Twitter about 3 weeks ago. But she messaged me. She messaged me on Twitter, and I've spoken to her directly about the whole situation. I'm not going to say anything more than that because I probably wouldn't even supposed to tell you that I spoke to her. But no, like me and Brandi.
No, it's cool. The fact that she's one of like out of like 100 when it comes to the minority voice. And that's the biggest issue there is they don't have more voices to say certain things. And the WWE has that problem as well.
Very true. Very, very true.
But certain things Vince likes and certain people can influence Vince. You know what I mean? So that's why, because people never talk about this. We've spoken about this numerous times on this podcast. Vince loves Biggie.
Right.
When they were going to choose who's next up is going to be,
Biggie was the
they
guy.
said Biggie. And so Michael Hayes was like, nah, pick
Roman Reigns. Right. Exactly.
And
but the thing about it is, I'm gonna say two things. Is it makes sense why Vince like Biggie. Let's stick with the fact that Biggie is black, right? I'll make 2 points. Let's stick with the fact that Biggie is black, right? Biggie takes himself seriously when he has to, but yet Biggie know how to laugh at himself. Because I'll listen to Bobby Lashley interview, right? Everybody knows that's one of my favorite wrestlers, you know, one of the top 5 bald-headed wrestlers in the game, Bobby Lashley.
Oh my God! All of you have no hair.
Bold and beautiful. Bold and beautiful.
Of course, top 5. And Lashley said it. He said, Vince had to take the seriousness out of me so I could laugh at myself. You realize that when he was laughing more in stupid storylines, it makes sense because you in sports entertainment. You have to entertain the crowd many different ways. So someone like Biggie, you see this guy, he works hard, everything, and he don't laugh at himself. That's my champion. You understand? Because he fits sports entertainment. The thing about it, that's one point I want to make. The second point is when it comes to us black people, we just because a black person doesn't fit the criteria of how to be black, we turn against them. Like Brandi Rhodes. How many times people saying that? Oh, Brandi Rhodes don't do this right. From our people, black women, getting oh, look how she carry herself, what she doing. She like she married a white man, blah 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 blah. Onto the storyline where that her husband buried moves. There's a lot of stuff that she deals with. And just because she doesn't come out like a Rihanna, doesn't come like a Cardi B, but she's Brandi Rhodes, it's hard. Especially in wrestling is my brother, you, myself, and all 4 of us, when my brother says something, just because he's not saying it in the whole yo, they don't want to listen to him because he doesn't fit the criteria what a black person has to be. So Brandi Rhodes get a lot, not only from the people
way too much,
from us.
Way too much black.
People go online on Instagram, whatever, they be dogging her. I'm looking like, yo, queen, don't talk about unity, but you bring out another black person. You don't even critique her what she did. You critique her whole lifestyle. I'm looking like, yo, how can you do that? And then in your next post, this is what kills me. In your next post, you talk about we got to support each other. You just slammed the Brandi Rhodes.
You know what it is with Brandi?
Put me on.
And you know what it is with Brandi? And I actually feel kind of bad for her. She doesn't have enough sisters in her corner. That's the problem. Where we all have people we can talk to that look like us to get a little like feedback from, to have a conversation with. And she says stuff, she does stuff, she means well.
I agree, she does.
But at the same time, it's like, sis, what are you doing? And she has nobody to pull her coattail, like, nah, don't do stuff like that. Right. She needs, it's one of those things where she needs more supporters than haters, but at the same time, she be throwing herself in this fire, and you be like, yo, ma, you threw yourself in this fire.
Why did you wear the gasoline jacket for? I don't understand.
Like I can't help you up if you get burned too. Like I'm trying to protect you. Like stop doing this stuff. And I know she's trying to maneuver and do things. And she said it. She's like, I have no control. I can't do shit. I'm just a figurehead. But to go back to everything that AEW is doing, it's like they're feeding their audience, and their audience loves the elite.
Yeah, of course.
They love the elite. And it's like this double-edged sword because you get stuff like Adam Cole coming back. You get stuff like probably within the elite doing stuff, which is like big budget type of big blockbuster type of moves. Daniel Bryan, all this other stuff. But then you have all these talented wrestlers that you really aren't building up. Now we're kind of seeing maybe some movement with Ricky Starks. Will Hobbs is trying to build up, but it's one of those where like people have to wait, which isn't fair. It's not like what you said. It isn't fair.
Why is not fair?
Huh?
Why is not fair?
Because MJF didn't have to wait. Darby Allin didn't have to wait. Orange Cassidy didn't have to wait. Orange Cassidy was signed and immediately shot up.
And he wasn't a big star. Exactly,
and Jericho put him over.
Yeah.
If that happened with Adam Cole, Dan and Bryan, it would make complete sense.
They had a chance to compete. They had a chance to compete, and Jericho squashed them at one point. Like he squashed them, and then Pineapple got released 2 days later. So you are right.
And you know what? And to make the point as well. That wasn't even.
I'm saying here like who?
And that wasn't even a Chris Jericho decision. Like Chris Jericho was the one that pushed for Pete to come through and all the rest of it. Even now, like Chris Jericho's just announced the next cruise thing or whatever else. Suge's gonna be. He's one of the guests. Suge's one of the guests. So it wasn't Jericho's idea to get rid of him. It must have been a company decision on a whole. But this is what I'm saying, like, going back to Orange Cassidy as well. Orange Cassidy wasn't a star beforehand. Yes, he's got star quality. Yes, he's definitely enough to push, and there was something there to work with. But it's definitely a showing of, right, this is who we want to work with, so we're going to push this guy. Going back to, what Wilkins was saying as well about the demographic, this is why, for me, I will make the noise that I'm making about the lack of representation and whatnot. Yet when it comes to trying to find a solution or to fixing the problem, it's not waiting for the white man to provide for us. We are not the demographic. We're not the demographic. At the end of the day, again, coming from my business head, marketing and whatever else, you have your target audience. At the end of the day, you cater more for your target audience than you do for anyone else. At the end of the day, demographic of wrestling, especially AEW very specifically, is 25 to 45 white males. Who else are you going to put on your card? The people that they relate to. You know what I mean? So it makes sense. And at the end of the day as well, who are the people that run the show? These same 25 to 45-year-olds or white men, blah, blah. They're going to show naturally, whether that's racism or not, naturally going to show their own people. So when it comes to a solution, it's not about waiting for Cody Rhodes to listen to Brandi when they're in bed at night and Brandi talk about Sonny Kiss and Red Velvet and Big Swole and blah, blah, blah. It's what we have to do is to build ourselves and to understand that we can do these things ourselves. So we should have our own promotions. We should be pushing our own people, all that kind of thing. Waiting for the white man to do something for us who have absolutely no idea what it feels to be us makes no sense. It's like a female waiting for a man to answer every question a female needs answering. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen ever. So it's a very similar thing. So this is why, for me, with us doing what we do, it's about us showing that we can do this together for ourselves, on our own, being self-sufficient, and all of those kinds of things. So, to go back, to even go a little bit deeper and go back into history, like the reason why people get upset when we do great is because at one point in this time in the world, especially in a massive way in America, for 600 years, we were literally dependent on the white man as slaves. We became free, doing what we're doing, became self-sufficient, hated it, threw everything else in our way, to stop us from being successful and blah blah. At the end of the day, it's a very similar thing, whether it's out and out, blatantly, or just something that is now ingrained or innate in our systems. Is that when we become great, as Wilkins said earlier, I can't remember if it was on the show before we started, but wrestling does not want to see a black Dave Meltzer or a black Sean Rossa or a black Ryan Satin. They don't want to see that. So they'll do whatever it is that they can to stop it from happening. So when we're talking about black wrestlers this and black wrestling draws and black wrestlers matter and all that kind of thing, what's always the response that we get? Oh, everybody matters. Oh, but wait a little bit. AEW's only been around for 2 years. Oh, but which black wrestlers ready? Like, why not just take the fact that the facts is the facts? You know what I mean? And that's what it is.
Nobody's ready. Nobody's ready.
Listen, man. Don't ever tell me Ricky Starks is not ready.
No. I'm just saying in general, when you really look at the landscape of wrestling,
right?
They put somebody in the fire,
mm-hmm.
and they got to survive the fire. Black, white, Spanish, whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem is, they just don't want to do it. That's what it is.
They lazy.
The thing about wrestling is, this is why I be telling people, is this is how it's kind of hard to determine who's the best, because being the best is 50% on you. That's definitely on you. And the other 50% is just the company and great booking. Like, what is The Rock? Never got good booking from Vince. Do you think The Rock will be The Rock? Probably not. You understand? So it's kind of like y'all all saying the same exact thing, and it's finally hitting in my head is they just need an opportunity. So if they had let Scorpio Sky become TNT champion, who would know the landscape of black wrestling and AEW? Or Nyla Rose didn't become champion, and her reign, it was just like you look up, then the next week she was
gone
like,
again.
And I'm looking like, okay. And I feel like the only wrestling federation that really don't care is Impact, because they made Bobby Lashley a triple champion when they didn't have to. You understand? Yeah. And they made Fire and Desire one of the hottest groups, the first ever black women's champion on the show when they revitalized the title. I feel Impact is the only federation, only one that when it comes to like wrestling, you feel like the next man up gets the opportunity, regardless of skin and complexion. That's the only federation I feel that. And
I think one of the things. Oh, I'm sorry. I think one of the things is that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just add it on, is just like when it comes to us black people, again, we pick and choose who's the next Messiah. Because think about it. If you really got behind Sonny Kiss, he could become champion in AEW. But because he is not a person who's a heterosexual, a lot of black people cannot get behind him. And I feel like we pick and choose who we want for us to be next up. And that's kind of a problem. But go ahead, Wilkins.
All I'm gonna say is just that, like, there's opportunities there in every company for more representation in general, and just to do things better. And if the hashtag Black Wrestlers Draw, even Faye's fucking trial on Twitter, like, it just shows the power of black wrestling fans and the influence that they have. And I don't want to like stay on that note. It's just like we saw what happens when you take a chance on black wrestlers and let them be themselves, as in the New Day. They have delivered on all fucking cylinders.
Don't forget about Shane Taylor and them boys. Like, wrestling coming, let them be themselves.
You know what I mean? It's just, they're on this level of like, hey, give them a chance. Let them be themselves. Let them do things that they understand, and not break them up. Not do fucked up shit to each other. Just let them run. And we saw the great things that come out of it. Ricky Starks is a star.
Yes.
Ricky Starks is a star. And we're seeing that. Hopefully, they're understanding. But you are right, like you've been saying throughout the show. The more you speak up, the more they have to take notice.
I think at the end of the day, you know, and I think we're included in that conversation where we don't always understand how loud our voices really are. And I think it wasn't until we kind of got more into the indie scenes here in New York and, you know, in the South, and having more of a relationship with other promotions and things like that, that we really did. I know for me personally, I didn't understand the volume of my voice. So I think we as fans have a responsibility to make sure that we will always. I think it's one thing me and Wilkins went to SmackDown on Friday here in New York, and I had posted, and they did everybody hates the contract signing shit. Everybody hates it. But literally, the little girl in me that started watching wrestling at 7 and 8, it hit a nerve for me because to see Bianca Belair, who headlined night 1 of WrestleMania, to now be at one of the biggest places in the world for the first time, and as a Black woman, like it came a little full circle for me, because it was just like, if we were having this conversation 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
And she's a trendsetter. She's definitely a trendsetter.
Right. And I think a lot of, you know, us just in general as, you know, Black journalists, people in the media need to understand that our voices are loud and they have meaning, and you can't always assume people understand. You got to be clear with what you say. You got to be consistent with what you do. And that's how, you know, the world and the industry starts taking you serious. There's certain things where people come up to us and they tell us certain things, and I'll be like, why are they telling us? Because they trust us, or they want to come on the show, and they want to do things with us. It's because there's a level of trust that they're like, you're gonna reach a certain level and a certain amount of people that I haven't been able to, and you guys are welcoming, and you guys are down to earth. And literally almost every interview, if it's a wrestler that we do that we may not know, we start off very like choppy. We're like, who are you? What are you doing? By the end of it, we're all BFFs. We're all in this together. Right. And I think that's just my wish, is that we all kind of just continue to pull together and do things. I mean, some people are going to take certain things, you know, the way that they take it, but it's always to make ourselves better. I think that's what it is at the end of the day. It's not always a shot or a jab. It's literally like, listen, you have a responsibility, and the way you're presenting this can fuck up everything for everyone.
My point exactly.
That's much
the thing about
but
it
guys,
is,
do you guys have, before you hold on, Mr. Black, I want you guys to think about your last questions, because I do remember it's like almost 3:30 in the morning over there.
My bad.
Hey, listen, it's 20 to 4. It's 20 to 4 in the morning.
See, I'm like, the sun is about to come up.
Dang, I feel bad. Oh shoot, I feel bad.
No, don't.
I have no more questions.
I see the birds sitting on the trees ready to start chirping. So but I'm good.
When I was talking, I was like, oh shit, wait, it's like it's almost sun is about to come out. Hold on.
I gotta go to bed anyway. So.
See, and he's grandpa, so soon enough but you guys think of your last questions, and then we'll wrap up.
I got no more questions.
I was gonna say this, going back to the whole Brandi thing, actually, because we were making points about Brandi and how she's treated, I guess, and you know what's expected of her and all that kind of stuff. Is you know, Wilkins said the thing of she doesn't have enough sisters in her corner, and I believe that's the case. I think she's probably garnered a few more friends in the business in terms of some of the ladies that are in AEW now, like a Red Velvet, possibly Big Swole, you know, ladies like that, Jade Cargill, for example. But yeah, I think a lot of the time, too much is put on her or too much is expected of her just because of the position that she holds or because of who her husband is. I know full well that if I was doing business with my wife and, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to be professional. During that 9 to 5, during the time, business hours and all the rest of it, you got to be professional. You've got to, you know, everyone's got to know where they're at and whatnot. Just because my wife is part of the business, it doesn't mean that I have to or even will listen to every concern of hers or everything that she says and blah, blah. That's not wrong. That's not wrong. That's just where it is. If it was a thing where she had influence to what happens in the ring and wasn't being listened to, completely different. But that's just not what her position is. So for us as, you know, I guess the black delegation to be on her to say, you know, you're the only one of us that's there, so you must do this for us and you have the responsibility to do this and blah, blah, is completely unfair. But the crazy thing is, from conversations that I've had with her and even from seeing how certain things have panned out, I know that she's been trying. Whether she's still trying now or probably given up because she's fed up, you know, I think very likely that's probably the case. She's given up because she's fed up, whether that's because of us or because of, you know, the guys at the top, who knows? But she's definitely, I think she's definitely in a place where she's like, right, I've tried and no one appreciates what the simple fact that I've tried. But at the same time, with the amount of times I've defended Brandi Rhodes in conversations, on my page, on Twitter, there are many times where she reacts to certain things in the worst way possible. And I find it very difficult to defend her. She can get very defensive when someone else disagrees with her opinion or has a different opinion to her. And you know, sometimes she sounds off and she says something and you're like, yeah, you didn't say that. It's like with that tweet. It's like with that tweet in general. The way it came across is almost like she was blaming us for talent not getting over because we don't support them enough. I'm like, that is the complete opposite. We're the ones supporting, but we're not seeing no response to our support. So while, you know, Big Shotty is, you know, every now and again on Dark is being called the future and he's added to the Nightmare Factory, what have they actually done with him? What makes you actually think that he is the future? What have they actually done with him? You know what I mean? He's every now and again they say it, but he's not had a strong run. He had that amazing match with that English guy that was there for like 2 weeks. He's now on NXT UK. They had a great match. The fact that I've forgotten his name tells you enough.
Well, to be fair, he's legally blind in one eye and had surgery, so that's why he's not wrestling anymore.
He's not talking.
No. That's a Gogo. That's Anthony Gogo.
Yeah.
Anthony Gogo. I'm talking about Lee Johnson. Shotty Lee Johnson.
They not gonna do nothing with Lee.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I mean.
He got beat up by black. You know, a black guy.
Listen, they put everybody against Aleister Black just so that Cody could come back and be the saving white light. That's it.
Yeah, of course. We know what's gonna happen. So
you know what it is. You know what's gonna happen. With her, and this is just my opinion. I don't know 100%. I feel so. First things first. She may have people in her corner, but there's nobody in her corner that's not working for her. That's telling her
right.
Because that's still my boss.
Right.
I gotta tiptoe around about it. Say that's number one. But I'm happy that she's finding her little tribe. That's very one. True. Number two is, I personally, now that I'm talking to you and that you're saying what you're saying, I personally think that the higher ups told her that people don't support black wrestlers. And then she went out and said, "Yo, this is the numbers." Yeah.
it's based on merch sales and numbers and it's that's what she's talking about.
And then this is the information that I'm getting. I'm going to tweet it out. But because you're not having a conversation with somebody and fully, flushing out the point, you're just tweeting something with a borderline hot take. You get eaten alive.
Right.
But the thing about it is, I'm gonna try to give like a new nuance to it. Is how can one get trained for social media? You understand?
Don't talk.
I give you an example. Is like all of us deal with social media, right? And you, my brother, Janelle, whatever, right? Before we first had social media, we didn't know how to do nothing on there. Due to our experience throughout the years, now we could go back and take our hand and educate someone else. Who's educating Brandi Rhodes as Brandi Rhodes? Wow. Brandi Rhodes, just from my tongue twister, Brandi is who's training her how to be a CEO, a black woman, a mother, a wife to enter a white man. There's so many different nuances. And when she got when she got to the Indies, whatever, who was like the most dominant black woman on the scene during that time? I'm not denying the people from the past though, but where was the Sasha Banks? Where was Bianca Belair back? Who took those arrows for her? So when she comes up, she don't have to take that much arrows. She didn't have that. She's literally the first of the first. So her getting angry at people online that's her just as a person. You don't know what kind of demons that she deal with. Imagine you waking up and hide up Black Lives Matter, and then every other tweet you get Master Lover, you love the white man, and people saying that the only reason why that Jade arrested him is because Cody has a weird fetish for black women. I'm looking like, how can you say that? That's not right, because if I say that about you, Mr. Black, you're sexist, you're a coon, you're a sellout, but yeah, you can say that to another black woman. How can you understand this? So with Brandi, it's just like she literally taking arrows for the Janelles. She literally taking arrows for the Faye Jackson. She literally taking arrows for everyone else who wants to be in that position as a Stephanie. Only one who's like her is Stephanie, but Stephanie's white. Let's be serious. There's only one. Yeah,
I think you're giving her too much credit. I think you're giving her too much credit, to be honest. Because she can have a social media manager. And that's my thing. And that's my thing is because you're going through all of this because she did come out. She said she's suffering from postpartum depression. And listen, I've seen it with friends. I've seen it with different people, and it's rough. Get off social media. Have somebody run your social media page. Take your pictures, post your stuff for you, blah, blah, blah. That's one. With the Black Lives Matter, you have every right to feel the way that you feel. But when motherfuckers are going through so much about a bigger picture, about a bigger cause, you don't need to post it. And I'm not taking anything away from her experiences, her, the stuff that she's gone through, but there's a time and place for everything. It's like we say all the time, read the room.
I was just about to say that. She don't know how to read the room.
And that's very true. That's very true.
That's arrogance right there.
Genuinely want to love Cody, because I love Cody as a wrestler. I'm a huge Cody fan. But he be doing dumb shit. And I gotta call him out on it. And then Brandi, I stay away from Brandi because she is a black woman. I try to not send too much criticism at her. But she be bugging. She be bugging. So she just needs to move a little bit better. And it's just to stay off social media, get somebody to run your stuff for you, take care of your beautiful child, and you'll be good. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is at that point.
Yeah. Right. For real, I think it is definitely a thing where she suffers for being in the position that she's in.
Yeah.
Having the experiences that she's experienced and all the rest of it, she's in a very difficult position. But at the same time as well, you know, it's like with me and you, you know, we know full well that if we say something, we're going to get a certain reaction.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we know that we're going to say it on purpose to get the reaction.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to say it at all to avoid the reaction.
Yeah.
Not just say it being completely oblivious or then get upset when you get a certain reaction. You know what I mean? And that's what she suffers for as well. You know, it's a rock and a hard place, I guess, for her at the moment. And the scary thing is for me is, you know, then dealing with a child. On top of all of that, you know, you're talking about the depression that she's been dealing with, and you know, she came out about that as well. And you know what? Social media is a dangerous place when you're in that frame of mind, especially in her position. And we've seen, unfortunately, very unfortunately, we've seen what happened with someone else in a very extreme way when the social media gets on top. So with ACH, when he went through all that madness that he did, and he went off on social media, and you know, and had the response that he had, and then obviously it turned into what he turned into, and that is the scary consequences of what can happen. And even in the media in general, whether it be wrestling or, you know, just entertainment in general, there was a guy from the UK, a black guy, his name is Ryan Smile. He came up in the UK scene with Pete Dunne. Him and Pete Dunne were literally best friends, and he's black, and he came up and on the UK scene, well known, all the rest of it. Something happened. I think he got injured at a show. Was supposed to be at another show. Said he couldn't make it, but then turned up on the night and got injured again. He got some next level of like backlash and all the rest of it. And from that incident, which is about 5 years ago, or I think, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he took about 2 years out, came back. On the night he came back, he got injured again. Again, all this backlash, blah, blah, blah. Last year, he took his own life.
Oh. And
that was mainly down to the fact that he had this backlash on social media, people coming at him for this, that, and the next. And there were other stories about what he's done in the back, in locker rooms to people, and how he is, and blah, blah, and all that kind of stuff. And then it got to that point where he thought, can't do this anymore. And that's the scary thing that happens. And not to say that I'm expecting anything like that to happen to Brandi Rhodes, but what I'm just saying is that there's a real danger in people trying to live their lives, and especially trying to justify their lives on social media. It's a dangerous place. Even when I came back a couple of weeks ago, when I said what I said about the BW 500, and I had some of the response that I had, I'm like, I was up all night. Like, whoa, like what I'm saying is justified. How are you taking it this way? But it made sense that they did. But what I'm saying is, like, the way I naturally reacted was like, whoa, like this actually happens. It's dangerous. Social media is definitely a beast. It's dangerous, man. It's dangerous.
It's a place where you can't take it too, because one, it's not real life. That's one. Two, half the people that's talking wild shit won't say that shit to your face.
Definitely not.
Yo,
definitely
prime example.
Definitely not.
Prime example. We all know that between my brother, me, and Janelle, we said a lot of hot takes. Of course, one of the most infamous hot take is we think that Jeff Hardy's a little bit overrated. We think Matt Hardy's better. Mind you, we didn't insult him personally as a man. We give him all the compliments. And in the comments, the stuff that people said, F you, da-da-da-da, this, that, and third. And then my brother said, like, yo, bro, it's just wrestling. It's not that serious. Why are you taking it so personal? I swear. 2 seconds later.
They standing up for the nigga that was drunk in the wrestling ring and was dangerous and could have killed Sting.
Right.
Killed Sting.
Come on.
Mind you, that's the past. And then people literally will curse us out in the comments. And then me me being me, I'm looking like, yo, bro, it's wrestling, bro. Why you taking it so personal? Inboxes later. I'm very sorry. I'm a fan.
Right.
I took it too far. Yo, you're a grown ass man. Why need to tell you that? Stop taking stuff so personal. Like, bro, Jeff Hardy was not there. Jeff Hardy did nothing for you but entertain you. He was not there when
Jeff Hardy don't even know you. He don't even know you.
There's one to having an opinion and disagree, which is totally fine.
Right. Yeah.
But when people be like, yo, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't be ever watch wrestling a day in your life. What's wrong with you? Go kill yourself.
Go kill yourself. Oh my word.
I remember before you go, we did an episode where we spoke about Alicia Fox.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the highest listened shows ever that we did for this year. Because Alicia Fox's stance found the episode, they listened to it and started trashing us in the DMs. One person like posted our page and was like, "This page needs to be shut down because they're catering for Alicia."
Somebody said that?
Yeah. And he said, "Look at these bald motherfuckers talking about Alicia Fox."
What?
Damn. Wow. That's why I don't be connected.
Wrestling opinion, mind you know how we are. We never say nothing personal. We just keep it as in skills because that's in sport. Like LeBron James, if you attack him as a player, that's fine. That's all fair game. But yeah, when you talk about how his mother was a crackhead, was a hoe, bro, was that necessary? It's funny as hell.
And the thing about it, I was laughing about it, but it was like, yo, you hate black people because you don't like Alicia Fox. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, what? Yo, chill.
Wow.
But
listen, man, it happens. It happens though, man.
You need to go. You need to go to sleep.
Yes.
We need
one last question that I have. Absolutely.
Go for it.
Set that up. But what is 2 goals that you have for Black Wrestling Alliance?
Oh man,
good question. I try to keep a lot of things close to my chest. I've learned in life that when you talk too much about something, it doesn't happen. But to answer the question,
but if you don't speak it into existence, then it may never happen.
That's very true as well. That is very true as well. It's a bit of a balance, and it's a difficult one as well. But yeah, so for me to answer the question, really, like one of the biggest goals that I've always had for this whole thing was to just grow the community, basically. You know what I mean? As you know, very similar to what you guys have done already in the last 2 years, in terms of like putting on your own shows, you know, the regular viewing party thing, like that's what you guys are known for, all that kind of thing. It's about the community. The community part of things. So I'm trying my best to find ways to build a community. It's very difficult because I'm like 20 million miles away from everyone else, or from the people that I need to be close to. But that is the purpose for me as well. Like I mentioned earlier, that the last 2 years or so, I've not necessarily been able to focus on the page in the way that I've wanted to, or I have done, you know, in the early part of things. So I guess for me, it's about finding that balance, the work-life balance, because at the end of the day, unfortunately for me, this is a hobby. When you know, when in to categorize it correctly, this is a hobby because the amount of work that I put into it and don't make nothing from it, I can't completely focus on this because I still have bills to pay, kids to look after, blah blah blah, the rest of it. So it's trying to find that balance, and in doing that, it's trying to find a way for that to work, not just for me, but obviously for the purpose of building a community of Black fans and Black wrestling in general. So making more connections, probably with promotions and stuff, getting in there and just seeing what I can do for, you know, to maybe even build others that want to be like us in terms of like, you know, journalists, podcasters, you know, people that just want to get into things. I remember I still get questions asked of me. People in the US, 17 to 19-year-olds be like, oh, how do I get started in wrestling? I live in so-and-so state. blah. I'm like, I'm in the UK. How am I supposed to know where the next wrestling school is in Missouri or whatever? Like, I don't know.
You see what I mean? Did I talk about this earlier?
Yep, it happens. It happens. So even being able to answer those type of questions would be great. Would be amazing. So I could say, oh, I know about blah 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 here, and this state does so and so, and oh, what city are you from? Oh, well, this city is closest to you that have a wrestling school. So it's all that kind of thing. Just being able to answer the questions, building a community, and just building just the confidence of Black fans and Black wrestlers in general. To be fair.
Well, I'm gonna say my closing things because I have no more questions. Is Adrian, aka the Jamaican Gold? You have to understand, dogs. Like, you have to understand is not only that you created a place where Black wrestlers could be Black wrestlers, though, but the way you spotlight them is always positive, and you never take away who their character are. You just enlarge it because you understand character work is important when it comes to marketing yourself. And the one thing I have to give you is your little details in the graphics that you do, dogs. Everything. I'm looking like, ooh, the details, the lettering, every little thing that you do. And to me, it's not only like it's for Black people, but you're creating culture. And you're like one of the fathers of creating culture within the Black community. And to me, sir, you've been doing a great job since I met you, and you've always been supporting us and back and forth. You're doing what a lot of people won't do is spotlight us. And I can't even call you the BT of this. You're the Black Wrestling Lines of Black Wrestling Lines. You're the one of one. I can't call you that.
I love that. Appreciate that massively, man.
And the fact that you're not from the US and you're from where you're from, to me, that is a great selling point because it shows you that Black people is not only exclusive to Africa, the Caribbeans, and America. Right. Basically,
we're everywhere, man.
Like, we're everywhere, B. Like, you get a drop of us and a white woman, oh man. Yo, listen, it's late.
I hear that. I hear you.
So, I applaud you. I have to say this on air. Is Black Wrestling Lines, when your list comes out every year, I get excited because you introduce me to 20 more Black people. You introduce another Black people. And the one thing I like what you do about it is similar to the PWI. You take your own twist by putting in video, an image of them, and you pick great pictures too. Like, I can tell you real ain't about the picture.
Bro, I have to.
You gotta look good. Everything. And these are what I like to tell a lot of young people around our field. We matter. We control the narrative. So all the bad pictures that you choose to put up of these wrestlers and they get represented in a certain type of way, that's on you because you still have control how we represent it. Yo, Adrian, man. Yo, thank you, man.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it massively, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Sir Wilkins, any last words?
Nah, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, dogs. Get some sleep, because I can get some sleep.
Lord. Well,
he's just ready for his bed.
Yeah, no, he's checked out. It's fine. But on behalf of the Jobbertears podcast, we do want to thank you for all the support you've given us. Half of it, I think fans and people that have come up to us would have not known unless you definitely reposted and posted things on our behalf. So thank you so much for trusting us and believing in us when people were still like trying to figure out who we were. Like, we just started from the bottom, now we're here type of thing. So
for real.
But the goal next year is to get you to the States. So we're gonna work on it.
It's the plan, man. It's the plan.
Because Jobber Slam 2 is a thing. It is a real life thing. July 2022. So gotta get you here.
Okay,
maybe get your referee shirt.
Okay, owner.
Anywho, thank you once again. Let the viewers and listeners know where to find you.
Of course. If you're not following me already, you can follow me on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. And I'm now making a lot more noise on Twitter, which is Black Wrestling A. So follow me there as well. And the other place you can find me is on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. we go live every Tuesday on Wrestle Extra, where we're talking about all things black wrestling and what's been going on in the world of wrestling.
Yeah, I like the boy that's on there.
Yeah, man. Check out my boy Mex. He is literally the hardest working journalist in the game right now. He's here, there, and everywhere. But Mex is the WrestleManiac on Instagram. On Twitter, WrestleManiac UK, and on Instagram it's WrestleManiac.uk. That's Mex. Yeah, man. Check him out as well.
I like that.
Great guy.
Good.
Great guy.
All right, Janelle.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Get some rest, guys.
Yeah, man.
See you soon. Thank you guys for tuning in on this late edition of the JTP Lounge. #Black Excellence. #We are out.